Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Inn. This is the 2017 Year's Awards, in awards. Yes, I know we are a few weeks late, but personal stuff. We still wanted to give away do the awards that we did last year. I think this is nice to do as a yearly thing to reflect back on the previous year of Hearthstone. And let's just start right off. So we're going to keep the exact same categories as we did last year. We're not adding any new categories this year or anything like that. We're just trying to keep it basic, and going off of that, we might think about expanding it in future years once we're not busy. So, starting things off with favorite card. These first two categories are very opinion-based. They are not based on objective criteria. And basically, favorite card is what was our absolute favorite card of the new year. Basically, brand new card. What card did we enjoy playing with, our one card that we enjoy the most? For me, this was actually surprising because I actually did not give this card a high evaluation when we did our reviews. But for me, my favorite card of the year is Lyra the Sun Shard. This card is so nutty. I kind of love that it kind of snuck its way into Priest and then just started doing crazy nutty things, because I like doing crazy nutty things with in my decks. And I was kind of surprised that after, Kibler started messing around with it, and you started seeing some of the wacky things you could do with this card, it kind of became an immediate priority craft for me, and I created a really great and fun little deck that just messed around with Lyra, just see what kind of stuff I can get into. I just love this card. Out of all the cards that have been released this year, this is just my favorite. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to Lyra.
If anything, I take a look at what you decided to go, you know what, this is my favorite card, and I just go, you know what, I can see that, because it's just like, this card was just, like, when Mike Donay said, it can be potentially busted, you kind of look at it and you just go, seriously? That card can be busted? And then you see it in action, and you're like, oh, I now see why, said the wise man. If anything, for me, in this whole favorite card of the year category, I have to give it to Unite the Murlocs. Because it gave me a new deck archetype to play in Wild that once Knights of the Frozen Throne slammed down and you were able to get the Ice Fishing and the Burlock to go along with the deck, it was just... This deck is just so fun to play, because it's just like, okay, you're playing Quest Shaman? Quest Shaman? What? And to give another little tidbit of a story to where this card goes, I had made the deck before actively going out and potentially deciding to craft Unite the Murlocs. And I had an arena run going. I finished the arena run, and it gave me the Journey to Ungrow pack. I opened the Journey to Ungrow pack before the whole thing of, hey, you can no longer pull duplicates, and this is the thing that flips over in my as the legendary that I get from the pack. So I'm just like, you know what? It was meant to be for me to make it, or at least make the deck and play with it and have fun with it. So, boom. That's my explanation on why I've enjoyed Unite the Murlocs. The deck is, for me, fun. And the card itself, to me, is just something that I've personally come to enjoy when playing Hearthstone, so...
And we have to have one pack opening story per year with this category.
At this rate, yeah. So, next up, we go to our least favorite card. And, if anything, if you've been listening to our rantings and ramblings, you might know what our cards might be, you might not. However, for me, I have to take a look at one card and go, this is my least favorite card, because it was just one of those things to where when it first was revealed, it was really hyped up and it could be really good, and you have people just going, oh, this is going to be so overpowered and broken, and it just turn out to be a complete and utter disappointment, and that's the Marsh Queen. I understand how busted and nutty and how people got all hyped up because, like, Life Coach was like, oh, this card going to make Hearthstone broken, and just, like, it just fell flat. And it just was one of those things where it's like, you saw it and it was just, hype, hype. What? Why was this hyped up? This is garbage. This is complete and total hot garbage. And this is where I kick it over to Bulb.
Many tears on my part were shed trying to get that quest to work. Man, I'm so sad. Anyway, my least favorite card of the year should not be any surprise if you guys actually watched our card reviews. And I'm not going to spend another 10 minutes saying why I absolutely loathe this card. Suffice to say, it is the epitome of everything I think Blizzard is doing wrong as far as going down the deep dark rabbit hole of unfun game design, and that is Rin the First Disciple. I hate everything about this card, and I was really hoping that it would just die a death. It would just, some people would try some niche decks. It just wouldn't work. It just would not be fast enough, and maybe we can move on. But no, it's actually kind of become somewhat meta-defining, and I hate that. I resist it with every fiber of my being. I hate it that much. So yeah, screw that card. Middle finger everywhere. Let's go. So next up, we have Archetype of the Year. We've changed the name last year. It was known as Deck of the Year. We're going to just try to make some of these category names a little bit truer to what they are. Again, Archetype of the Year is the archetype that was only made possible due to this year's releases. It is an archetype that really could not have existed in previous years, and if it did exist in previous years, it did not look anything like it did now. Basically, that the releases this year sufficiently changed the way the deck and the archetype was run, so that actually feels somewhat new, or that it is refreshing. And for Archetype of the Year, for me, there's going to be no other, and that is Rizaka's Priest. Prior to Highlander Priest had existed before. It was especially popular around Mean Streets of Gadgetzan due to
Reno Jackson.
Yeah, due to Reno Jackson and again Raza. But the thing about Rizaka's Priest is just includes a Shadow Reaper Anduin into the Highlander formula completely changes the way the deck runs. And even if you go to Wild where you have Reno, the deck's endgame is now completely different. And that is only because of cards that were introduced this year. So, yes, technically Highlander Priest existed before, but it never existed like this. This is a new beast. And because of that, it is a very effective beast and has defined the latter half of the year. So, yeah.
But Bob, it's a tier 3 meta deck. Alright.
Oh, that deck is never bad. You can never go wrong with a Rizaka's style deck. You can make so many different variations of it. It's not funny, especially in Wild. And in Standard, I play Rizaka's deck that is essentially an Awaken the Maker's deck, and it's still good because the Rizaka's combo in a Highlander deck is that good.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I give you that because it's just you've taken the archetype and made it to where it's like, this is also my archetype of the year as well. This is something I know we're definitely both agreeing on at this point. Because it's one of those things to where you take a look at some of the cards that are in the deck. Like, yes, you have Raza, you have Kazakus, and you have Shadow Reaper Anduin. Those are your three big main cards that you want on 4, 5, and 8. However, this deck also made it to where Prophet Velen could become an active and viable card in Hearthstone, for goodness sake. And it's like, when was the last time you thought to yourself, you know what? I want to craft Profit Flippin' Velen. I can tell you, probably not. I mean, the only other archetype that I could remotely kind of throw into this to just give it a fair dog in the fight, and it's one of those things where it was at the tail end of the 2017 era, is because of its uptick and rise, would be Cube Lock. Because it's just taken on this new form with everything that's come out in Cold and Catacombs. But I still have to give the big award for this whole archetype of the year to Razakis Priest, because it is just too good to not look at and just go, boom, this is it. This is the big daddy and the big finale for 2017.
And it's amazing how a simple, like, this one archetype can have so many variations. And that's mainly because of the Highlander aspect of it. Like, you can have multiple variations, especially once you get into Wild. There are so many different variations of this deck you can do. It has the same core, and that's what defines it as a Razakis deck. It has that core, but there are a lot of different variations you can really go with it. There is the popular, the one that you're thinking of when you say Razakis, but there are also Razakis decks that have completely different builds, and they still work because of that core, and it's the same archetype.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's also the fact that you have Dragon also being a thing that gets thrown in and just gets thrown around a little bit. You've made your own Awaken the Maker style of it.
I'm surprised Awaken the Makers worked as well. I keep on intending, whenever I get space again in my deck list, to bring back and tweak my old Highlander and Spire Priest from back in Main Streets of Gadgetzan, add the Razakis package, and just laugh. So,
if anything, just as a heads up and a warning, this deck is, or at least as far as Wild goes next year, watch out.
It's gonna stay. It's gonna stay.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be sticking around. So if anything, next up we have Expansion of the Year. Last year it was Bulb?
Last year we were split. You said Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. I said it was... my Expansion of the Year was Whispers of the Old Gods.
Yes. This year I think we're going to be united on which one we're going to say was Expansion of the Year. I take a look at it from a full, or at least a 2/3 full. I've not really gotten to dig into Kobolds and Catacombs due to personal stuff. So it's just like, I've not gotten to play the latter, but if anything, I do keep up with things. As far as this year goes for Expansion of the Year, I definitely have to give it to Journey to Ungoro. Man, that expansion. Yes, rotation did happen, but it's just with that expansion, you had an almost ever-shifting, ever-evolving metagame. You had it to where it was one of those things to where, yes, you still had your top-tier decks, but at the same time, you could almost play anything and just still be right there and in the running. It wasn't one deck type to rule them all. So I have to give my personal gift of Expansion of the Year to Journey to Ungoro.
Journey to Ungoro. Yeah, absolutely. Not to be the one that gives it to the first expansion of the year again, but the thing is, I think Journey to Ungoro really deserves this, because Eddie's right. Normally with it, when you have a new expansion hit, what happens is that for the first week or so, week to 2 weeks, the meta, and this even goes out for sometimes as far as a month, the meta really is shifting, trying to settle and all that stuff, but then it settles and things become old again. You know, it begins with people are trying out all new different types of deck archetypes, different types of decks, and then it just settles down and becomes just a handful of decks. We had that in Knights of the Frozen Throne. We had that. We were even seeing that in Kobolds and Catacombs. With Journey to Un'Goro, for the entire 3-month window after its release, leading up to Knights of the Frozen Throne, the meta was ever shifting. It was fresh. There were so many different things to play, and every single class was viable. Some classes were more viable than others, but every class was seeing play. It was the healthiest meta and the most fun meta I think I've ever experienced since playing Hearthstone. And especially looking on websites like Hearthstone, a lot of people agreed. It was a very good meta, and we didn't lose the creativity of the meta until after Knights of the Frozen Throne hits, and we started getting Death Knights and all of that, and the meta just solidified yet again after that experimentation. But when I'm looking for an expansion of the year, an expansion that completely shakes up the metagame, that defines a metagame, Journey to Un'Goro is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a meta that just doesn't give us good cards and the metagame that defines the meta in that way, but that allows us to continuously reinvent the meta because the expansion is so versatile and offers so many things that we're discovering new possibilities even 3 months later. That basically there's a lot to offer. So Journey to Un'Goro is not only, in my opinion, the best expansion of the year, it may be probably the best expansion Hearthstone has seen.
That's a solid claim.
I think it is. And we had some good ones. I mean, I still think Goblins vs. Gnomes was kind of cool, but I think Journey to Un'Goro might be my favorite. And finally, we have Card of the Year. Now, Card of the Year is essentially the card that was released this year that we think influenced the meta of the game the most. It essentially, in a nutshell, defines this year. And with that in mind, I can only really give Card of the Year to one card, and that is Shadow Reaper Anduin. I almost thought about giving it to Ultimate Infestation, but Shadow Reaper Anduin defined the meta. Whereas I think Ultimate Infestation is really was strong and almost did the same thing. When you completely, as a card, completely reinvent an archetype, so much so that it is completely renamed and becomes associated with you and with that particular card, then you know it's a powerful card. I think it is probably the card, if not one of the cards, that people will look back to this year, people will think of this card. And so that, for me, hands down, it has to be Shadow Reaper.
Yeah. I kept going back and forth because it's just like, that was my card that was secondary to the card that I placed up on first. Because it's just, you look at Shadow Reaper Anduin and it's just like, this card is so powerful and just so defining. But I'm also looking down the scope just a little bit, and I'm going, once rotation actively happens, it might flake off, depending on what gets released. I can't look down the scope that far because the barrel currently is between my eyes, so it's just like, meh. But, if anything, for me, I have to give my personal card of the year to Stonehill Defender. You take a look at this card, and this is just one card that was a rare. And you could put it in almost any deck. Mostly it was put in Paladins because it was your legendary finder. You could find Tyrion and the new
Karam?
taunt creature that came out with it in this set.
Karam, right?
Yes, thank you, Bob, for giving me that one. Tarum, my brain was having a conniption fit. And then you've also got the other taunt cards and things like that that are going to be coming forward with, like, Lich King, and just any other taunt cards that will be released later on down the line. Then you could put it in Shaman. You could find Thing from Below, and it's Death Rattle Friend, White Eyes. I mean, this thing, you could just put it just about anywhere, and it was just like a chameleon that could just be like, okay, I get good stuff, and I'm a taunt. Bite me, middle fingers going this way now. So, just to try to look further down the line of things, I definitely have to give it for Stonehill Defender. And if anything, Bulb makes a really great point on Shadow Reaper Anduin being a really strong and powerful card. So, that's all, folks, from me.
And that's the awards for this year. I'm really looking forward to this upcoming year of Hearthstone, whatever the new year is going to be called. Year of the Mammoth is signing out. I think a lot of people will probably be happy to see it go. Bye-bye Pirates. Bye-bye Jades. Bye-bye Razakis. Hopefully we get some new and different things. Hopefully things get shaken up again. Maybe we may even have a meta as diverse and fun as Ungoro. I'm actually looking forward. I'm kind of excited to see where we go from here, and especially hopefully if Kobolds and Catacombs is any indication, we may have some really fun things coming up ahead. So, any other thoughts to wrap up 2017, Eddie?
As far as 2017 goes, I definitely have to say that the dungeon runs and the PvE experience where you've had with, like, the Lich King, those have been really, really fun for not only just myself, but things like that going forward, I hope we get to see more of, because it's one of those things to where it gives Hearthstone also a freshness, rather than just having to look at the ladder and go, oh boy, I get to go and climb this for my experience now. Now it's just, I get to go, oh hey, I want to play dungeon runs and just, you know, see what I can do there and have fun there. Or, oh hey, look, I get to battle the Lich King, and the Lich King has to be a total and complete douchebag at times and, you know, freeze my board! But if anything, I'm looking forward to 2018, whatever X year becomes at this point. I'm sure definitely will be starting about, I would say, March to start really looking and digging into the new year. So once that starts to happen, you'll see and hear more from us. And then,
well, we do have a few things hopefully that we can get out before then, but
of course, I was getting ready to mention that we had still more stuff planned, and if anything, Bob, do you want to sign us off?
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to our reviews and our discussions last year. We hope to do some more stuff this year. Definitely more card reviews, more challenges, more things like our top 20 cards. We're going to be trying some new things this year, and we're going to be streaming. I hope you guys tune in for what we have planned this year. See you later.